And we're back with a bang. Arsenal have beaten Crystal Palace 2-0 on the opening day. I mean, not just Arsenal's opening day, the opening day of the Premier League season. And I'm back with Graham. How you doing?
Great to see you, James.
This is such a contrast to 12 months ago when we lost to Brentford and it was doom and gloom and we had Chelsea and City looming. It feels so different and it feels good to be back. Before we go into it, how are you though, mate? It's been a while.
I'm very good, mate. How was your summer?
Summer was good. Summer was good. Orlando was amazing. A lot of love for you as well, I must say that. People we met out there were really just heaping up the praise, you know, for what you do on this show and the work. So, yeah, it's really good to be back doing
I was in America as well.
Yeah, of course you were. Yeah.
My son Cameron's 21st birthday was this year, so we treated him to a trip to the west coast of America.
Wow.
Going from the Grand Canyon up to San Francisco and back to LA. Sort of a fly drive.
What a trip, that's amazing.
2,000 miles driven, about 4 or 5 stops. Grand Canyon, Las Vegas, Yosemite National Park, San Francisco and LA.
So were you there while Arsenal were doing their tour as well? So, okay, that must have been ideal for watching the games, timing-wise.
It was, yeah. And before we start today, congratulations on your cameo on Sky Sports.
Wow, as I say that, I dropped my pen. I'm just so blown away. Thank you. Thank you, Graham. That's very, very sweet. I really appreciate that.
I thought that was brilliant the way you summed up the season. I think that if Robbie ain't careful, he's going to have to give you a pay rise, mate. And as you know, I'm a trade union official, so if you need any representation of getting a pay rise,
listen, we might have to chat. I promise that I'm not asking him to say these things, Robbie. Okay, I actually promise. This is completely unscripted. But no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And it was good fun. It was actually good to, chat on different platforms, hear a little bit of what they thought. But always good to be back here, doing what we love, which is the Tactical Insight Show, especially after a win, because Arsenal, there were so many things, so many wrongs to right from last season. The Palace defeat after the international break, which obviously sparked a terrible run. We didn't get top 4. The Friday night opening the Premier League season, in front of the Sky cameras, everything. Neville and Carragher there watching. We wanted to show everyone what we were about 12 months on and why we're excited about our pre-season, and Arsenal delivered.
They did, and I think there's a great transformation from the performance on Friday night to the performance on that Monday night game when we got battered 3-0.
Yeah.
I think if you look back at that game, we learnt our lessons from that game. We lost that game 3-0 because they started with high intensity for the first 20 minutes, which we couldn't match. They had Conor Gallagher playing as a pressing number 10, which they didn't have this time. But one thing they did really well, Palace, is they exploited us in behind our fullbacks, particularly between the gap between Gabriel and Nuno Tavares on the left-hand side, where they had a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And they tried that again in this game with Anderson's phenomenal long passing. I thought, first of all, Arsenal started really well. For half an hour, played beautiful, composed football, and is well worth their lead. Obviously, then we did a very Arsenal-like thing, which we tend to do under Arteta, which I don't think he encourages. I just think it happens. We sit back on a 1-0 lead in 2 banks of 4 and defend. And so that's possibly why, when we look at the match stats in a minute, they favour Palace. But overall, we learnt our lesson in the fact I saw Arteta direct Gabriel out to assist Zinchenko when he's having a bit of difficulty in the second half, double up on Ayew, who was giving us a few problems. And I thought William Saliba, who we're going to talk about today, a fantastic debut, assisted Ben White out when they tried to play in behind him. So I thought we learnt our lessons from the Palace defeat, managed the game really well. I'd like to see us not drop back to deep so early in games. But overall, you can't complain. To go to Crystal Palace, who, let's face it, only lost 3 or 4 games at home last season, took a lot of points off the big 6, and get a 2-0 result with a clean sheet was a great performance and a great start. Yeah,
I agree. But the match stats, as you mentioned, we're going to get them up here on the TV. It doesn't suggest Arsenal were as in control as they really were. I mean, you look here, 56% possession for Crystal Palace, having been completely in control and had most of the ball for that first half. Okay, shots on target pretty even. We just about edged them on XG. But was that just more circumstance? Was that just more the fact Arsenal had that early lead and that almost tension to keep hold of it and not wanting to concede and protect what you got? Has that dictated that game in that sense?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first half an hour, the stats were massively in favour of us. But as the game went on, the way we played the last 2/3 of the game, those stats turned around in favour of Crystal Palace. They were the home team. They were always going to have periods in the game. I think it was a sort of game where both sides, the way they set up, it was almost like a 4-2-3-1 stroke 4-3-3. Both teams played very similar formations, stifled each other. There was very few chances I thought, created from open play. Our first goal was from a set play. Our second goal was a late breakaway. They created 2 openings from open play when Ramsdale saved us with 2 big saves. But overall, it was a game where there wasn't a lot of chances created from open play. Both teams sort of cancelled each other out. But I thought, when you sit back like we did for 2/3 of the game, the home side are always going to have probably better numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Thing is, we talk about sitting back, but that's just not how Arsenal started the game.
No.
They were on Palace, they suffocated them, and I know that you always enjoy analysing a press, and it's something you want to see Arsenal do more. So talk us through this one.
Yeah, I thought that we pressed really well at the start, stopped them from playing out, stopped them getting a foothold in the game, which was great to see. I think the arrival of Gabriel Jesus is absolutely pivotal to this, and he led the press really well on Friday night, and it depended where they played out to. If they played out to Anderson or to Gahey, which way he would go. So, and that would determine the way we pressed. So, for example, if they played out to Gahey on their right-hand side, on their left-hand side, Jesus would press over to him. Then Martinelli would come up and press on to the other centre-back. Then Zinchenko would then move up and press their full-back. So that would be like the press up high. If they pressed out on the other side, if they went out to Anderson, then Jesus would come across and press onto him. Zinchenko would stay back, and then you've got Saka coming onto the centre-back and White moving up then to press onto Mitchell. I think the other key was, I think Decore is a big player for them. He's going to be a big player for them. I think they wanted to play the ball into midfield into him, and I think Odegaard had a responsibility. Everyone talked about how poor Odegaard was in game offensively, but he played a very key role, I thought, off the ball, in that he was absolutely on Decore all the time, stopping, particularly in that first half hour, getting the ball and enabling them to build up. I think Eze, who played almost like a number 10, I think Xhaka's role was to sort of like sit on him. Partey was taking care of Slup. And you almost like had a 2v1 at the back there, Edouard being taken care of by Saliba and Gabriel. Both teams, I thought, had 2v1 situations with their central halves on a forward. So that's the way I thought we pressed. I thought the press worked really well. And I thought we stopped them from building up, and that helped us enormously. Stopped them being what they wanted to be, because they wanted to be intense. They wanted to play out through our press. They just couldn't play out through our press.
A player who's absolutely crucial to that is Gabriel Jesus. You know, he's the trigger. He was described as one of the best pressing forwards in the world, or the best, by Pep Guardiola, and you can sort of understand why. And some of his numbers here, just from the game, in terms of what a complete forward he is, from touches in the box, the amount of dribbles he's completed. Talk us through deep completions. He sent that through.
Yeah, I thought he was very unlucky. He could have had sort of like an assist or two in the game. He put Martin Odegaard in a really good position when he harried down and chased down one of their centre-backs and got the ball, won it back, put Odegaard in. Odegaard really should have pulled the trigger straight away, but he took a very poor first touch and he ends up trying to move it across to Martinelli. Deep completions where he completes a pass up high in the offensive area. Sure. That's what that is. He also played in Martinelli. He was responsible for that brilliant run where he got back, got the ball, drove forward, it broke to Martinelli. Martinelli an unbelievably good early chance, which he side-footed wide, which really I think he should have hit the target. But I thought that these are his offensive numbers. He completed 6 dribbles. I noticed 5 deep completions where he completes a pass up high, progressive passes 4, and progressive carries. That's what he offered to us. And that one of those progressive carries where he came deep, received the ball, drove at the Crystal Palace defence, and literally that explosiveness where he's able to get away from a defender quickly, move forward and play in. It all broke more for Martinelli, I think, more than played him in. Was instrumental in some of the good work he did. But he also, although he was up high a lot, he was coming deep a lot. And Martinelli and him were rotating quite cleverly. Martinelli was driving forward at times into that space. Jesus was coming back, receiving the ball, driving at their defence. And sometimes also sort of like going out wide on the right-hand side where Odegaard and Saka were. So he was all over the pitch. But he offers that energy, that explosiveness, adds fluidity to our attack. He added something that I think when we played there last season, Lacazette couldn't offer. And I think he added unpredictability. He had a really good debut. The only thing lacking was a goal.
Yeah, I completely agree. The goal eventually comes, and I was a little bit worried that Arsenal were maybe missing the opportunity. You know, that Martinelli chance that goes wide, it kind of hit the inside, wrong part of the inside of his foot, and you're kind of thinking, all this dominance, are we going to capitalise on it? But we score from the set piece, and how many times have we been here talking about set pieces? especially last season, because it's something that Arsenal improved massively under Nicolas Jova. We saw it with the goals from set plays in the Premier League last season, Arsenal ranking third to only the big two, which shows that even the very, very best of all these technicians and score lots of goals are focusing on goals from set piece and set plays, being a crucial part of it. They're almost, I compare them to an ace in tennis. It's just like it's a get out, it's a bailout, it's a point on the board without having had to really do a lot. So being able to master them is a really, really big thing for Arsenal. But interestingly, when Arteta was asked about it, and was this a routine or whatever, you found out that it wasn't actually Nicolas Jova, we've given a lot of credit to on this show. It actually wasn't him who put this together.
No, I heard him say that it was one of the set-piece coaches came up with the idea. So there's obviously more than one set-piece coach there.
Yeah.
Nicolas Jova has been responsible for a lot of good stuff at both ends of the pitch, of course, but I think it was another set-piece coach. The thing about that delivery, it's something they worked on. Obviously, when you looked at it, Zaha gets attracted to Ben White, which means that he doesn't come back into the box. Zinchenko then is able to get on the end of the cross. But I think what works well for Arsenal is a mistake with one of the defenders. One of the defenders in the middle, I think, who was marking Martinelli. The moment Zinchenko gets the free header, he goes across to cover where he thinks the ball's going to land, and it drops, of course, onto Martinelli's head, and he's got a free header. But for all that, it's a well-worked set-piece goal, a late movement into the box, heading back into the danger area where you've got bodies and anything can happen. And I thought that in a tight game like that, although Arsenal were in control, it was always possibly going to be a set play that was going to undo one of the defences. Yeah,
especially when Selhurst Park being such a tight pitch, and it can be a cagey game. I wasn't surprised by Arsenal's intensity and their approach to the game. Just that I was surprised we had as much joy as we did really playing the kind of football. And then I thought, actually the football we're playing and the openings that we were working, I thought, actually, Arsenal might be able to carve out a really good goal here, but ultimately, I don't care how they go in as long as they go in.
Yeah, I think that the things that we talked about, the way Arsenal play, the build-up now is so well structured under Arteta, but set pieces are a big part of football. So it's something that if you can steer the march on a team by scoring from a set play or defending set plays better, it's a massive advantage to you. And I think that obviously stifling them so they couldn't play out was key to this. Getting control of the ball, they couldn't get a foothold in the game, and we just kept. What I liked about us in that first half hour was something that we couldn't replicate for the rest of the game. Is we were very sure, crisp, and assured in our passing, and dominated the game, and kept pushing them back. So we built up in this 2-3-5, which at times was almost like a 3-4-2-1. It's very fluid the way Arsenal move.
Well, actually, let's talk about that, because one of the players that we also wanted to touch on was Alexander Zinchenko. They've been calling him Alex Zinchenko, so I didn't know that they gave him that. Well, I guess Alex is short for.
It's a nice chant they had for him in the game, wasn't it?
There was a great chant, yeah.
Gold, a Spandau Ballet.
Zinchenko, always believing. Yeah, everyone's like, I'm not singing, but you get it. Everyone's loving it. 72 touches.
Yeah, I think first half, when we were on top in the game, you saw his qualities. Almost like I watched Man City yesterday, both their fullbacks sort of like drifted into midfield and were very comfortable midfield. You had that with the Arsenal fullbacks. Ben White, who can play as a third centre-back, but also can drift in, very comfortable in midfield, good passer, and same with Zinchenko. Him and Xhaka were rotating positions very cleverly most of the game. I thought Zinchenko was up high more than Xhaka in this game. Xhaka sat more back, I thought. Alongside Partey more, and Zinchenko was the one getting forward on the left-hand side. What Martinelli was doing really cleverly in the first half, James, was on the left-hand side. Martinelli was dragging Klein. If you move Martinelli over here, he was coming short to receive the ball, then moving infield a lot, taking Klein with him, moving Klein away across the pitch, and then Zinchenko would come up on the outside, and they created that sort of like situation 2 or 3 times, created space for Zinchenko. Zinchenko's rotations with Xhaka, interplay, how comfortable he was in midfield, the way he comfortably received the ball, moved it on, I thought was a joy to behold in the first half.
Yeah, and I thought we'd see a degree of rotation from these three, Martinelli, Zinchenko, Xhaka. Something I mentioned on the sort of Tactical Insight Light from pre-season was the fact that you got these 3 players who are quite comfortable. You can almost put a pivot like right in between them, and they just spin around it. Almost because you can have Martinelli out wide, Xhaka getting forward, which he's been doing a lot more recently, and Zinchenko coming into central midfield, which he did a lot in the game as well. And so for Arsenal to be asking these different questions, it must be a nightmare for Klein, Eze, and Ayew, thinking, I need to follow him.
Yeah.
But I'm being dragged so far out of position, what am I leaving? And Arsenal, the more Arteta's got his own players, the more they've been able to be completely comfortable in different areas of the pitch, these players. I thought Zinchenko was really good.
He was outstanding. And you mentioned Eze. Eze is very good going forward. The fact he had to do a lot of defending in that first 30 minutes, but stopped Palace really from being what they wanted to be. And ultimately led to them then just changing tactics. Ultimately, they had Anderson, who's a phenomenal passer, who then started pinging these long balls in behind our fullbacks because they just couldn't build into midfield. So because we were dominating the game. I thought we were on control of the game for half an hour. It then changed when our sloppiness defensively. Gabriel had a couple of sloppy moments, and then Aaron Ramsdale hadn't been in the game, had barely touched the ball, made one or two sloppy passes out. The crowd seized on it, the levels rose, and Palace then started to get back into the game just before half time.
Do you think Zinchenko could play in midfield? Because
I do.
Yeah, I've been arguing with Robbie. We've even got a bet going. I think this player in future will be Tierney. This player will be Zinchenko, and then Martinelli. And I think I think there's going to be an even more natural fluidity.
I think when we're at home,
though Xhaka was very good.
Yeah, I think Xhaka. Well, first of all, I want to praise Granit Xhaka. I thought he had an outstanding performance. But I think Xhaka's very good in that role when we play away from home because he understands the defensive side of his game, which Zinchenko's not quite so strong at. But at home, where you want somebody to be a bit more subtle up high, who's got a pass, Zinchenko's your man. So there's room for both to rotate depending on the opposition.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, let's talk about our second goal. I really wanted to spend a little bit of time assessing this in particular because, well, Tierney's come on. By the way, credit to Arteta. I understand some people saying the subs were maybe a little late for their liking. But I think recognising that Zinchenko was having a little bit of a nightmare actually in that second half, you know, as you got more in the game, and he brought on Tierney. Now, what we haven't seen before, because it's a lot of work trying to recreate all these, is Arsenal actually win the ball back through Partey, and there's a lovely little bit of football between Xhaka, Gabriel, Partey and Nketiah. It goes back to Ramsdale eventually, and here we are. So Ramsdale pings one out to Kieran Tierney, who has stayed forward from initially winning the ball back. Now this again is why we spent the money on Ramsdale, why Leno being a great shot stopper just wasn't enough for Arsenal. It's about having that outlet. I mean, listen, the Sky cameras picked, you know, that clip of his ping to Zinchenko, which was beautiful in the first half. But this is where it's really effective. Tierney's made the run to stretch the game for Arsenal a little bit, and Ramsdale's found him with pinpoint accuracy. Tierney does brilliantly. Fresh off the bench, nods it into Martinelli, and Arsenal started to make their way forward a little bit, and I wanted to see a little bit more of this. I'm glad Arsenal did it in this particular move, and I think the fresh legs of Tierney and Nketiah were a big part of why we were able to do it. Martinelli, comfortable in possession, rolls into Xhaka, who finds Nketiah, and then it's wide to Saka, and as he's driving, people are getting in the box. Martinelli and Odegaard are looking for that cutback, which is pretty famous move under Arteta. Eddie Nketiah is making the run in the box, Fox in the box, we know he likes to get there. Tierney's kind of on the edge, White's sort of looking for maybe a pass if Saka doesn't feel the cross is on. And listen, you get a little bit of luck and Guehi puts it into the back of the net, but you wanted to make the point that you want to see Saka doing this more and actually asking questions.
Yeah, I do. I want to see him driving at defenders and then just putting it into the area, because that's what, the corridor of uncertainty. You could get one of our players could attack it and get a touch, or he could come off one of their defenders, and that's what's happened on that occasion. I thought the thing about that goal was the role of Eddie Nketiah, who came deep originally to receive the ball, and when he came on, he offered something that Jesus struggled with, and this is when we're in control of games. Jesus is an outstanding player, but he's not really what I'll call an outlet. And when we were in two banks of four and trying to get up the pitch, you want an outlet. Nketiah, when we're later in games probably trying to hold leads or you're looking for an outlet, I think Nketiah can do that role better than Jesus. I'm not saying Nketiah should come in the team ahead of Jesus, but if there's anything that I thought Jesus struggled with, as good as he was, and it was an outstanding debut, he struggled to be that outlet second half where he could hold the ball up and bring our players into play. Nketiah did that well when he came on, and I think he was instrumental the way he was involved in that goal, in two parts of the goal, feeding Saka as well. And I thought he was more of an outlet when he came on. He took the pressure off a bit.
Well, I think with Jesus, I think he can be an outlet. I think maybe he was tiring and getting used to it. And as you mentioned before off screen, we were talking about him and Zinchenko not being used to doing this much defending for Man City. But there is something that I want to add to that point, which is regarding Gabriel Jesus' heat map. Now, where is it? Jesus versus Palace. So here's his heat map. He's pretty yellow across. He was popping deep at times. Obviously, he made some runs into the box. Now, I appreciate that when you do heat maps and whatever, the data is skewed in certain ways, and you understand in a sec why I'm saying that. He's a player who wants to drop into these pockets to receive the ball and link up, and he's dropping back to defend a little. But my feeling was that Jesus was dropping back so much trying to help that actually we lacked a threat the other way. Now, what he did, that chance he created for Odegaard was brilliant. He pressed, Mitchell wins the ball back, and Odegaard should do better, and he had a few moments. But I was watching Jesus, and it's not just him, it's Martin and Saka as well, thinking, I love the work rate getting back, but why don't we leave a little something the other way just to give Palace something else to think about? And I feel it's something under Arteta we've never really done particularly well. Now, what I watched, 48 hours, it wasn't quite 48 hours, maybe 42 hours later, was the Brighton Man United performance, where Brighton, similarly, they go a goal or two up, they've got something to protect away from home. United are going to throw the kitchen sink at them. But I felt they looked actually a little bit better at not necessarily keeping possession, but just always having a question the other way. And a big part of that for me was Danny Welbeck. Here's Danny Welbeck's heat map. Much more, barely in Brighton's half. Always sort of being on that last defender, whether it was Martinez or Maguire. Always basically saying, if you look, lads, if you want to go long, you can. I'll look after, I'll win a foul or whatever. I'm not going to really help in that defensive third or defensive half so much. And I just think it gave Brighton and Man United, gave Brighton an outlet, but gave Man United a question to constantly have to answer, even when they are trying to score. And I just think Arsenal have lacked that under Arteta a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fair point you make. Obviously, I didn't watch the Brighton game yesterday, so I can't really comment on that.
No, of course, yeah.
That's a fair point you make.
Basically, we're not great at counter-attacking.
No.
Everything I've just said, we're not great at
and I think the thing is, I think one thing Arsenal got into last season quite a lot was sitting behind the ball with two banks of four. Mm-hmm. We used to be a good counter-attacking team. And I think we have got players who could actually be good counter-attacking players. Yeah. And I think it's something that maybe they need to sort of work on and look to do more this season. It's almost like I think the team seems to want to sit back and just defend the lead. It's a mentality thing. As I said earlier, I think Arteta wants them to kill, wants them to go forward, wants them to be a counter-attacking team. It's just getting the players, I think, to believe in it on the pitch themselves.
Yeah, I agree. Two players we've got to talk about as well. William Saliba. I haven't gone this long without mentioning him. Look, I think everyone's waxed lyrical over his performance, and rightly so. They, did a segment on Sky about it, and every fan can mention William Saliba. So we don't need to add too much to the discussion, but to point out some of his standout stats and to be performing like that at 21 years old in your Premier League debut, under the pressure he was under for a lot of that game, immense.
It's hard to believe he's only the age he is. 100% aerial duels won, 100% dribbles completed, 94% pass accuracy, 7 clearances, 7 ball recoveries. But one thing I thought he looked far and away the best defender on the pitch. It's almost like he was almost at times playing in second gear. Mm. He was so clean with the ball. He has that demeanour. Yeah, he's that demeanour. You've got it. That's the word. He was composed. He was assured. He was clean with the ball. Composed with his tackling. He would just get the ball and give it. Mm. Always making the right option. Always covering Ben White really well when he had to. He looks like a different level. Me and you talked about, already he looks the best Arsenal defender. I mean, it might be a bit of a strange thing to say, and it's only one performance, although he's been good in pre-season. But he looks levels above already. And I think Ben White is going to find it very hard if he's going to have this level of performance week in, week out to dispose him at right centre-half. And he's going to be fair to Ben White, he doesn't mind playing where he's playing, and it's a role he used to play for Brighton, so I think he's comfortable at it. But this guy, this performance was just outstanding, and I think the fact that immediately Virgil van Dijk follows him on Instagram after the game says a lot. I think in the end what we've done with him, everyone's been questioning why he's on loan, but I think it's looking like the right decision. He's come back. It was an absolutely faultless performance, and I was so impressed with him. I said to my son during the game, well before Saliba's levels about man of the match, and that was after about 60, 70 minutes. And I thought it was a top performance by William Saliba. And I think we talked about undroppables, me and you, before this podcast. We looked at Ramsdale, probably Gabriel, Partey, Odegaard, Jesus, and Saka being almost like undroppable in this team. He's quickly going to become undroppable if he carries on like this. That was an outstanding performance.
Yeah,
by William
I
Saliba.
completely agree. And a word for Ben White, who I thought was... And by the way, I thought Gabriel was very good on the day. Yeah. Just William Saliba was the stand-up. I thought Gabriel was fantastic. And for me, as our as a raw defender, he's still our best, but only because I don't want to give it to Saliba after one game, as good as the performance was. I still think Gabriel was immense. But Ben White, I thought, was fantastic. And, you know, this big one, yes, he was dribble pass, but only twice in the whole game. Actually, am I right in thinking that's the most tackles in a game since 2019? 19, right.
Yeah, the most tackles in the game by an Arsenal player since Lucas Torreira against Chelsea in January 2019. Right. He won 12 duels out of 17. He absolutely shuts Wilfried Zaha down. Knew when to tackle him, when to sit off. He was
when to delay.
Yeah, he was just 6 clearances. He was only dribbled past twice. And I thought he was very comfortable. His passing was good. He supported the attack going forward. I thought it was a really good performance by him, and I couldn't understand the criticism he was getting. Yeah. There was a few occasions when Anderson pinned some great balls. Let's praise the Palace defender Anderson for the ball playing ability he had to get balls in behind him, and Saliba had to come across once or twice. But I thought overall his performance was pretty assured, and I think that's a role I think you might be seeing him play a lot. You know, I think what Arteta's done in adding Zinchenko and Saliba to the group this year, he's added quality, he's added depth, and now we've got an interesting sort of situation emerging at Arsenal. Last season we had the back four was Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel and Tierney was nailed on every game. When they didn't play and Tavares and Cedric came in, you noticed a drop-off in quality straight away. He's now got quality and depth in these signings, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think White suits the way Arteta wants to play better than Tomiyasu in a way. Tomiyasu is more the right back, and we have to say White is not a genuine right back, but he can play in midfield and he can play as a third centre back, and that's the way Arsenal like to build up in this 2-3-5 or 3-4-2-1. You know, and he suits that system better. So yeah, I thought he was outstanding, and he took care of Wilfried Zaha. Yeah,
he did. I really enjoyed his performance. And yeah, Zaha looked busy. Yeah, Zaha was always going to be
one key ball he played. White made one mistake in the game, we have to say it, when he got caught on the wrong side. Yeah. And Zaha slipped that ball in for Eze. And then Ramsdale, I thought that was a really massive save, a big part of the game. And what I liked about Ramsdale then, he didn't commit. It was almost like he was on him really quickly and he stood up to him. He didn't sort of like commit himself, so Eze had to make a choice and went for the low shot, and he made a good save. That's the only mistake White made in the game.
Yeah, Rams had a really good game as well, worth mentioning. Listen, they're all fantastic, but a word on Ben White there. All right, Graham, listen, it's been really great to have you back.
Great to see you again, mate.
You left me waiting a little bit there. But
closing stats, mate? Just quickly.
Go on.
Closing stats. Gabby Martinelli has 2 goals and 1 assist in his last 2 Premier League games for Arsenal. 5 of Arsenal's 10 shots came in the first 20 minutes, culminating in the goal. Arsenal ended a run of 10 Premier League games without a clean sheet. Arsenal ended Palace's run of 9 hours and 52 minutes without conceding a goal at Selhurst Park. Only Patrick Vieira, 72 yellows and 8 reds, has more cards in the Premier League than Granit Xhaka now, who picked up his 53rd yellow in this game for diving, would you believe? He also has 4 red cards. Did you notice actually that the referee Anthony Taylor didn't book 2 Palace players for doing exactly the same thing?
Get me started.
And finally, we've mentioned it. This is the key stat for me. Ben White made 8 tackles against Palace, the most of any Arsenal player since Lucas Torreira against Chelsea in January 2019.
There you go. Well done, Arsenal. Listen, they started the season hopefully the way they mean to go on. Leicester at home is next. I'm looking forward to breaking that down. Hopefully, Arsenal build on this, because this was the game in the first 5 that we were the most worried about. So no excuses now, Arsenal. You've got the 3 points. Build on it. The rest of the transfer window is going to be interesting. Of course, we've got 5 Premier League games before the transfer window actually closes. So we'll see what we learn from all that and what Arsenal do. But listen, Greg, it's been an absolute pleasure. Guys, if you have enjoyed it, smash a like on the video, get in the comment section, let us know what you noticed from the game as well. The Tactical Insight Show is back. It's great to be back. The season is back. And Arsenal winning is back, which is what we want. So build on that. Big thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.